The border separating the Kingdom of Thailand and the Kingdom of Cambodia has long been a source of tension. It's a line drawn not just on land, but also through centuries of shared history, cultural rivalry, and colonial interference. For generations, people have moved across this frontier, but in recent times, it has become a flashpoint for military conflict. At the heart of the dispute lies a stretch of land dotted with ancient temples, most notably the majestic Preah Vihar Temple. This sacred site, perched atop a cliff in the Dangrek Mountains, is a masterpiece of Khmer architecture. While culturally Cambodian, its location has been contested for over a century, fueling a deep-seated disagreement that continues to erupt into violence even today. The roots of this modern conflict can be traced back to the early 20th century, during the era of French colonialism in Indochina. In 1907, a treaty between Siam, now Thailand, and France established the border based on the watershed principle of the Dangrek Mountains. However, a map later produced by French cartographers deviated from this principle, placing the Preah Vihar Temple squarely within Cambodian territory. For decades, Thailand did not formally object to this map, a fact that would later weaken its claim. This colonial-era document has become the central point of contention, a historical artifact that one side sees as a binding international agreement and the other views as a flawed and unjust imposition. The dispute eventually made its way to the world stage. In 1962, the International Court of Justice in The Hague was asked to settle the matter. The court ruled in favor of Cambodia, awarding it sovereignty over the temple. It based its decision largely on Thailand's implicit acceptance of the 1907 map over many years. However, the ruling was narrow and did not clearly define the territory immediately surrounding the temple. This ambiguity left the door open for future disagreements. Thailand accepted the verdict regarding the temple itself, but has never conceded the 4.6 square kilometer patch of land adjacent to it, creating a volatile situation where soldiers from both nations patrol in close and uneasy proximity. This unresolved issue of the surrounding land has ensured that the court's decision never fully extinguished the embers of the conflict. Deadly clashes erupted in 2011, leading Cambodia to return to the International Court of Justice for clarification. In 2013, the court reaffirmed Cambodian sovereignty over the promontory of the temple, but again stopped short of demarcating the entire disputed border. It urged both nations to work together, but the fundamental disagreement persists. Cambodia now seeks another court ruling for other contested areas, including the site of a recent fatal clash, but Thailand rejects the court's jurisdiction, insisting that a bilateral commission formed in 2000 is the only proper channel for resolving these disputes. Nationalism is a powerful force in both Thailand and Cambodia, and the border dispute provides fertile ground for political leaders to cultivate it. For governments facing domestic pressure, a foreign conflict can be a useful tool to rally public support and divert attention from internal problems. In Thailand, politicians accused of being too soft on Cambodia risk being labeled as traitors by nationalist groups. This was vividly illustrated on July 1, 2025, when Prime Minister Paetongtarn Shinawatra was suspended by the Constitutional Court. A leaked phone call with Cambodian Senate President Hun Sen, in which she used familiar language and seemed to offer concessions, led to accusations that she was undermining Thailand's national interests and sovereignty. In Cambodia, the government has similarly used the border issue to foster a sense of national unity and defiance. The narrative of a smaller nation standing up to its larger, more powerful neighbor resonates deeply with the public. Following recent border skirmishes, the Cambodian government organized large-scale unity parades, such as one held on June 18, 2025. These state-sponsored events feature citizens marching in support of the military and the government's firm stance on defending every inch of Cambodian soil. These displays are not just for a domestic audience, they are also a message to Thailand and the international community, demonstrating a unified national will to protect what Cambodia perceives as its sovereign territory. The current escalation began with specific, tragic events that broke the fragile peace. On May 28, 2025, a skirmish in a contested border zone resulted in the death of a Cambodian soldier. This incident acted as a catalyst, inflaming passions on both sides and setting off a chain of retaliatory actions. The situation was already tense after a standoff in February, when Cambodian soldiers sang their national anthem at another disputed temple, an act the Thai military viewed as a provocation. These events, combined with reports of new landmines being laid in the contested areas, have created a climate of deep mistrust, making any de-escalation efforts incredibly difficult for diplomats to navigate. The response to the May clash was swift and damaging. Beyond the military posturing, both countries engaged in economic and cultural warfare. Thailand imposed severe restrictions at border crossings, disrupting the flow of goods and people that local economies depend on. Cambodia retaliated with force, banning the import of popular Thai products like fruits, vegetables, and fuel. It also halted the broadcasting of Thai movies and television shows, which are widely watched in Cambodia, and boycotted certain Thai-provided internet and power services. These sanctions demonstrate how the conflict has spilled over from the remote jungle frontier into the daily lives of ordinary citizens, deepening the animosity between the two nations. Throughout June and into July 2025, the simmering tensions boiled over into active military engagement. The initial skirmishes involving small arms fire have given way to more serious and destructive tactics. Reports from the border region describe the use of heavy artillery and, most alarmingly, targeted airstrikes. Both sides have accused the other of initiating these attacks, with each military command releasing statements claiming they were responding to unprovoked aggression. The sound of explosions has become a terrifyingly regular occurrence for the communities living near the border, shattering the peace and replacing it with the constant fear of a full-scale war breaking out at any moment. The intensification of the fighting has created a humanitarian crisis in the region. Fearing for their lives, thousands of civilians on both sides of the border have been forced to flee their homes. Villages that were once bustling with life now stand empty, their residents having packed what little they could carry and sought refuge in temporary evacuation centers set up in schools and temples far from the front lines. These displaced families face an uncertain future, unsure when or if they will be able to return to their farms and homes. International aid organizations have expressed grave concern over the situation, but access to the affected areas remains limited due to the ongoing military operations. Military commanders on the ground are operating under immense pressure, caught between political directives from their capitals and the volatile reality of the front line. The leaked phone call involving the Thai Prime Minister revealed a disconnect between political and military leadership, with an army commander on the border taking a hardline stance that appeared to be at odds with the government's attempts at negotiation. This dynamic complicates the chain of command and increases the risk of unauthorized actions or miscalculations that could lead to a catastrophic escalation. Each side has reinforced its positions with more troops and heavy weaponry, transforming the disputed jungle areas into heavily militarized zones. The international community has watched the escalating violence with growing alarm, but efforts to mediate have so far been unsuccessful. The Association of Southeast Asian Nations, or ASEAN, of which both Thailand and Cambodia are members, has called for restraint and dialogue. However, the bloc traditionally operates on a principle of non-interference in the internal affairs of its members, which limits its ability to impose a solution. Broader international bodies like the United Nations have urged a peaceful resolution, but with both nations deeply entrenched in their positions and rejecting third-party interference, the path to a ceasefire, let alone a lasting peace accord, appears increasingly remote and difficult to achieve. The temples and territories at the center of this conflict are more than just lines on a map. They are powerful symbols of national identity and cultural heritage. For Cambodia, the Preah Vihear Temple is a crown jewel of the ancient Khmer Empire, a direct link to a glorious past and a source of immense national pride. Its image even appears on the country's currency. For many Cambodians, defending the temple is synonymous with defending the soul of the nation itself. Similarly, for Thai nationalists, the temple and surrounding lands are seen as part of a historical territory that was unjustly taken from them, and reclaiming it is a matter of restoring national honor and dignity. Beyond their cultural significance, these disputed areas also hold potential economic value. The Preah Vihear Temple, a UNESCO World Heritage Site, has the potential to be a major tourist destination that could generate significant revenue. However, the ongoing conflict has made this impossible, turning a potential symbol of shared prosperity into a site of military confrontation. Furthermore, there are suspicions that the contested lands may contain valuable natural resources, adding an economic dimension to the territorial claims. Control over the border also means control over lucrative trade routes, and the constant instability disrupts an economic relationship that should be mutually beneficial for both developing nations. The deep-seated historical grievances and the potent mix of nationalism and politics make a peaceful resolution incredibly challenging. Any politician in either country who is seen as compromising on the issue risks their political career. The conflict has been woven into the national consciousness for so long that generations have grown up viewing the other side with suspicion and hostility. This mutual distrust is reinforced by state media and nationalist rhetoric, creating a cycle of anger that is difficult to break. Finding a solution would require a level of political courage and public goodwill that seems absent in the current climate of confrontation and escalating violence. Ultimately, finding a lasting peace will require both Thailand and Cambodia to look beyond the zero-sum game of territorial sovereignty. It would necessitate a shift from focusing on historical grievances to creating a future of shared prosperity and stability. Mechanisms like the Joint Border Committee exist, but they have been sidelined by political posturing and military action. Until both governments can subordinate nationalist fervor to the practical needs of their people for peace and economic development, this ancient border will likely remain a source of sorrow and conflict, with the magnificent temples standing as silent witnesses to the ongoing tragedy unfolding beneath